So, with everything going on with the virus and pandemic, your business is probably one in a few different places. Either you're closed for now and you're super antsy, can't wait to open back up, but you're not sure when. Or maybe you know your opening date and you're just working like crazy to get everything ready for that date. Or maybe you're already open and things have been hectic to say the least. So, no matter where you are with your business right now, I know that there's something on a lot of people's minds. You're probably thinking, I have to work like crazy to make up for the lost time and the lost revenue from being closed during coronavirus. If that's you, I would love to invite you to watch this interview with Lindsay Mayuga. She's a salon owner of Lynn May Studio, and Lindsay learned that burning herself out, trying to please all her clients, and burning the midnight oil essentially on building her business was not satisfying her or fulfilling her. So she found another way to set goals, to find fulfillment, and find that elusive work-life balance that everybody always talks about. But let's be honest, when you have your own business, that rarely happens. So I recorded this interview with Lindsay before the coronavirus shutdown. But I wanted to share with you now because it's more important than ever to make sure that you find that balance, that you don't overextend yourself, spread yourself too thin, and kind of be at the beck and call of your clients. It's very tempting to do that, to try and fit in all your clients, to try and make up for lost revenue, to work as much as you can. But you might find that in a month or two, you've kind of burned yourself out. So I wanted to share this heartfelt, amazing interview with Lindsay, where she really shares her tips and ideas for creating a work-life balance that you love and being fulfilled. So keep that in mind and keep in mind everything that's going on in your business as you watch this interview. And please try to respect your own time and yourself as a business owner. All right, let's get into it. Hey, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me on today's interview. I'm so happy to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Stephanie. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So today is all about mindset and goal setting and creating the life and the business that you dreamed of. And I can't wait to get into it. But first, for anyone who isn't familiar with you, Lindsay, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your experience in the beauty industry and then where it's taken to you in your journey and where you are now in your business and in your life?
Yeah, so I've been a hairstylist for almost 15 years now. I'm from Minnesota and I always wanted to move to Chicago and I always wanted to be a hair colorist. So I think from the get-go, I thought, okay, I just want to be a colorist. I want to be so successful and not really underneath the surface looking at what that was actually going to mean or what it was going to look like, more just about like the job title that I would have. And so I set out from the time I was 18, moved to Chicago, didn't know anyone, assisted at a salon that was my dream salon. And I worked there for 6 years. But I wrote myself a note to open a year after my apprenticeship program. And it said, I hope you're killing it and you're a colorist and everyone wants to see you and that it's just like you have your dream job. But the thing that I think is interesting about it is when I look at that, or when I think about that letter, nowhere in it did I talk about like what success actually was going to look like for me.
Yeah.
Or my life was going to have, like the feelings that I was going to have, or the kind of the lifestyle I was going to have. It was just so career focused, which I think, in my opinion, you have to have that laser focus when you get going to kind of get your career going, get it to where you want it to go. You almost have to have an obsession with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that over the years that I didn't know how to divert some of that energy into my own life. And so, 15 years go by and, for 12 of those years, I really didn't, I got married. I had a life, but did I really have fulfillment in my life? And did I really have the fulfillment in my career? Because I think I had a career and a life that looked really good on paper. But if you were to look beneath that, there was someone that was overextending themselves, bending over backwards, but hitting all the, society's versions of success. So on paper, on the surface, I looked very successful. It wasn't until the last 2 years that I've started to really feel successful and really be able to look at what that is actually going to be for me and not what I'm fed by the world.
Yeah. Yes. There's so much pressure of us on what success looks like, what a successful business looks like, what a business owner should do or should believe or that kind of thing. So you said it's been in the past 2 years, especially when you figured that out and you've started living your truth more that way. What does that look like for you now? Like these past 2 years, what does your business look like or what does your life look like? And how is it better from how it used to be?
Well, yeah. So I think I was someone that always kind of passed judgment on other hairstylists that moved around a lot because I kind of saw them as people that were kind of flaky or they didn't know themselves. And really, it's funny, like years down the way, like I've moved 4 times. Like I worked in my first salon, then I worked at the second salon, and then I met my business partner. I had a studio in a salon with a business partner for 4 years. And so 2 years ago, our partnership ended and I moved into a new space solo. So it's a street level commercial space, 650 square feet. And I had thought that partnership, was going to be there forever. But really what it ended up being was this huge catalyst in my life, and not even just in my career, but in my life, to look at my marriage, to look at my career, and to get really subjective and get really curious about it. Because looking back, and even shortly after my partnership ending, realizing that I was really not that happy, but I didn't know that. And I think that it just created this momentum in my life to start questioning the way I had been doing things, because so much of what I had done was following the rules. And I think, again, like, it's like I have this business, I look like a girl boss, I've got a partner, I've got this husband who's like successful, and we got a dog, and it's like, oh my gosh, my life looks so awesome. But then peel back the layers of it a little bit and get in my new space and kind of just be like, wait, that wasn't even awesome. And I didn't want it to end. So it kind of just became this process of just kind of getting really almost like a bird's eye view of my life and going, oh, okay, like, do I even want to do hair? Because I never even questioned that. I decided at 18 that that's what I wanted to be. And then I never really allowed myself permission to ever ask questions. And I do love this, but I found that I had to do it differently in order to stay in this career and to actually kind of fall back in love with it, fall back in love with my life.
So you still love doing hair. And I know you have another side of your business now too that I want to chat about, but you said it took doing it differently to realize that you were falling back in love with it, but in a different way. So what are you doing differently about how you do hair or how you run your salon now?
Well, so I think when I ended my partnership, I had really wanted to have a salon that had more scale to it. So I wanted to have an apprentice. I wanted to have a stylist. And I had this dream and this goal because I think that it's the next natural step in the industry, which I think we can kind of get hung up on. And we can kind of get ourselves kind of backwards because we're trying to follow, we want to keep growing, but well, what does that look like? We look around and we always see are people that are kind of creating bigger salons. So I think that for me, the things I've done differently is I've tried all the things that I thought I wanted to do. And in the process, I've become really curious and I get really just compassionate with myself. And I say, oh my gosh, I thought that having an assistant, I thought that having these employees was going to create freedom in my life and space in my life. And then when I was able to establish that was not what it was doing, it was actually for me personally taking away a lot of the freedom that I was just realizing I could start to give myself permission to have. What I've begun to do is try a ton of things, which I had always wanted to do. And then as I'm doing it, when it doesn't serve me, move on quickly and end things in a compassionate way. So for me, in the last 2 years, I've had a commissioned salon, I've had an assistant, I've had an apprentice program. And then in the last year, I've been alone again, kind of reevaluating, really getting to enjoy what I created, because I think we can be going so quickly and we can be like, next thing, next thing, next thing. It's kind of like a disease that I never really actually enjoyed my studio or my space. I sometimes will sit on my couch now and I'm like, I love it here. But I had been going so quickly. And I think sometimes we don't allow ourselves to enjoy where we're at because we think we have to be spinning our wheels all the time to have growth. And growth for me in this season has looked really different. So I've been growing, like, I think all the work that I've been doing is really just on myself, and then it's reflected into my business. So like a lot of things that I had done in my business before were not really honoring me. And I didn't realize that when I stayed late for people. I didn't realize when I didn't charge people accordingly. I didn't actually see that was actually like weakening my self-worth, weakening all these things in me, and that I was actually sabotaging what I really wanted. I didn't see it like that. And I think just getting really curious around the kind of life that I want, then I had to be I was the answer to most of my problems.
Yeah. And I find that is so true for whatever kind of business you have, wherever you are in your business. A lot of times the obstacles or the issues or the thing that's preventing you from getting where you want to go, it's all up here. It's all what you're putting in your own way, or the stories that you're telling yourself about your business and that kind of thing. So can I ask you now, with your business the way that it is, you said you've made changes and you're not afraid to change them back, or you're not afraid to go a different way from what traditionally people see as, oh, this is the path of salon ownership. You're not afraid to kind of like step back, change your mind, change things. So how do you know now if you are achieving what you think is success? Like, how do you measure that? How do you measure like you reaching your goals? Are you moving more towards what it is that you want?
Yeah, I think that when I started to get to know myself, I started to be more content and more at peace with my decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I no longer needed everyone else's validation. And so I think that what I look for when I'm making decisions is like, it has to sit right with me. I have to feel it. I have to feel like I'm doing it for the right reasons. And if I know in my heart I'm doing something for the right reasons, then like I went gratuity free this year. And I really just bundled my pricing differently. And like in Lindsay of yesteryear, she would have been like, well, how do you feel about me doing this? Like, is this going to be a problem for you? And it's like, it's okay if it is.
Yeah.
Me. And I think that that's kind of what I look for in my decisions now is like, is it a slightly uncomfortable? Because like, I think that I need to grow. I feel like you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, but realizing that's not something to run from, that it's something to just like sit in, because, it's, if you're running away from pain, you're going to just have a life that's like real cush, but you're not actually going to get anywhere. So I think it's learning how to decipher what is like just the uncomfortable transition of going gratuity free, because that was uncomfortable. It was a lot of awkward conversations, but it grew me. And I think just like having a deep understanding of that, some of the things you're going to do are going to be growing you and uncomfortable. And some of the things are going to feel just like not congruent to who you are. And that's like the difference.
I think the skill there is being able to tell the difference, because when you have a business, you're bound to feel it's not going to be all good times. Like, it's not going to be all feeling amazing. And there are going to be times when they're hard and they're rocky, and that's just growth. But I think like the difficult part for a lot of people, and it's something that I've had to figure out myself, is like, is this difficult and it shouldn't be difficult and I'm just making it difficult, or I'm doing something that doesn't really align with what I want? Or is this just the good kind of difficult where it's helping me to actually grow? How do you tell the difference?
I think for me, it's just thinking about how I want my life to go. So like, I knew, like, I guess I'll use example of gratuity free. I knew I never liked that it felt like I was putting the value of what I was doing minus 20% out into the world and hoping that they were going to do the customary thing. I think just being like, okay, I don't like, just thinking to yourself why you want to do the things you want to do. Because I think understanding the motivation behind it really is the clearest way for me to decide if it's actually something I should do.
Yeah.
So like, if I did the podcast, I said, I want to put this out into the world. I want to help people. I want to share my experiences. I want to connect with other people. I think when you have pure intentions, you have to just like give things space and time, but like let things be what they're going to be. Because I'm someone who forced a lot of things and was going to try and stay in a partnership that wasn't working. But I think that you can almost like try too hard. And I think that when things are really hard and consistently hard and something's not driving inside of you, then you have to have the self-awareness that I didn't have before. And like, this is just consistently hard and I don't feel like I'm breaking through it all. Maybe I need to like go to a different door.
Yeah. So in the course, I know you talk about self-worth a lot. So that's kind of where you start. Can you talk to us about why self-worth is so important to you and is so important to your audience and the people that you talk with in the beauty industry? Why is it something that you're so passionate about?
Yeah, I'm passionate about it because I feel like there's like a worthiness piece to everything that we do. And that for like women in particular, and then in the service industry in particular, I think that if we don't really even realize that we have that worth is even something that is entering in when we go to price ourselves, or when we go to like ask for the time off that we want, or when we go to like to set a boundary with someone. Like, I didn't think that it was polite to do that. And I think the changes that I've made inside of me have been able to I've been able to walk into scenarios and walk into conversations that would have otherwise been very stressful to me, and really just like stand in all of who I am. So like, I got a new phone number because I've never really liked having my professional phone, my cell phone be ringing. But over the years, people will be running late and they'll still text me because somehow they got my number. So after a year of that, it was like, no, I personally, I'm an Enneagram number 2. I'm a caregiver. I need that separation for me to be able to love my career, but also love my life and get that time to recharge. So for instance, I got a new phone number. And then as people, have things come up and they're like, you didn't text me back. And I'm like, you know what? I actually got a new phone number that I'm only using for personal. And I mean, that there's a worthiness component there, because I'm saying I'm worthy of a life outside of this, and that you don't get access to me all the time. And if you have a problem with that, which some people do, which you test the health of the relationship every time you set a boundary. But
Yeah.
I believe I was worthy of these things, that I deserve to have the kind of separation from my life that so many other people get to have, and that I could give that to myself. I could give the schedule that I wanted to myself. I also work for myself, so take that with a grain of salt. But just realizing that it was woven through everything, and that I hadn't really had awareness of that, and having awareness of it just kind of, it's like a muscle you start to strengthen. So like in those moments of like staying late for someone, like, you know what, it actually is not something I'm going to do anymore. Like, thank you for understanding. I totally understand if you need to go somewhere else. But like, just saying to myself, like, you're saying no to you. You're saying no to your life. And for hair color. So I think it definitely is just like something I'm so passionate about, because I've seen how working on it just kind of changes how, like, there's bullies in your life. It's like when you have a sense of worth about yourself, people don't know what to do with you. And there's a power move of having a sense of self-worth. It's like you can stand in a moment that would otherwise be awkward and just take a breath and like let the silence be there. And like, I even think there's a worthiness there. Like, I was always filling the space because I never wanted someone else to feel weird. Well, why don't you feel weird for once? I'm going to chill.
Yeah, exactly. So honoring yourself too in all of your interactions, whether they're with your clients, whether they're with like team members or personal life. So building up your self-worth and understanding your self-worth is, I guess, the first step in what you talk about in creating that life that you want, creating that balance that you want with your work, with your life. So what are some things that people can do to start developing that self-worth if it's been a while that maybe they've had their business and they just constantly feel like they're at the beck and call of other people and they're not putting themselves first? Like, what are your tips for starting to do that?
I think getting quiet with yourself, and whether it's like journaling or drawing or going on a nature walk, but like really just like, don't run from yourself and stay in a hamster wheel. Like, sit with yourself, maybe write down in a perfect world what you would love to see happen, and then take a step towards that. And I'm really a big fan of not making a bunch of changes. So like, if I'm going to change one thing, I'm going to do that for a while. So like, it's like, I didn't want to work Saturdays anymore, but that was so scary. Like, you're a hairstylist. What do you mean you don't work Saturdays? And then like one client says, you can't not work Saturdays. I'm like, I can't not work Saturdays. It's like just sitting with the things that you want to see happen, and then like slowly taking steps. And so it is scary. It's like last summer, I'm like, I'm going to work every other Saturday. And then as I started to come up, I'm like, I don't want to do Saturdays anymore. And then just like looking at your schedule and making a hard stop, going July 17th, that's my last Saturday. Everyone after that's getting rescheduled, and bite the bullet, because you know what you want. And I think that being able to sit with yourself and you all know what you want. Like everyone knows really what they want. They just, I think you don't think it's possible, or I never saw people doing the things I was doing. So that's too. It's like, oh, because I'm looking around in my area and I'm not seeing anyone doing what I'm doing, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. And I think kind of seeking people out that you do see somewhere else with social media that you're like, that person's doing what I want to do. Be inspired by them and know that what you want's possible. It's just going to take a little time to get there. And you are going to disappoint some of your clients. You're going to disappoint people on the quest to like honor yourself, but be okay with that and know that that's going to come. And I say a lot, like create priorities, but then you have to have policies in place to honor those priorities. So it's like, that's the thing that I think a lot of us know what we want, but then we hit one bump, like of someone being like, but I wanted to come in that day. And then we're like, oh, we're not going to do it. When we really need to be foreseeing these obstacles or foreseeing the fact that someone's not going to love your new schedule, and know that that's coming, and then have something ready, like whether it's a response. It's like, I know, Sherry, I've loved seeing you, but if you need, like, I have some recommendations because I understand you're a Saturday girl. I'm just not anymore.
Yeah, really. So just putting yourself first, discovering that self-worth, and then taking those steps, like you said, to build that up so that you can start on the rest of your journey. So let's talk about the rest of your journey and what you talk about in your program, and what's a big theme and what I've seen you sharing with the world is about building a life that you actually want, that actually fills up your soul, nourishes you, and makes you happy and alive. Because you said, in your journey in salon ownership and working in the beauty industry, you kind of woke up at a certain point a few years ago and realized that you weren't really living the life that you wanted to, and you hadn't built the business that necessarily was your dream. So can you talk to us about some ideas and tips for figuring out what your real goals are? Like really, really figuring out what it is that you want, especially in your business, because so many of us, at least I know for myself, when we're first starting out, we have this goal of, oh, I want to make X amount of dollars, or I just want to get a bunch of clients and then I'll figure it out afterwards. And I've been through both of those types of goal setting, and neither of them necessarily made me happy. And I'm sure that you know yourself, like, it is very easy to set goals when you're in business that don't actually fulfill you. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I say a lot that I have a business that doesn't look very different than the business I had 2 years ago, from the standpoint of it visually would read very similarly. But if you looked at the way that I feel towards it, and really what I really became to realize is that there were days that I was so busy that I was like dreading the day, and I was overwhelmed and I was stressed out. But then I thought that I wanted to keep making the money I was making. So it's like, well, I have to keep seeing more people, and, really just having these price increases more regularly, and being able to say, like, okay, for me, what is success going to look like? It's going to look like being home at night. For me, what's success going to look like? Having a weekend with my husband after being with him for all these years. For me, having success is going to be something that my business is no longer I'm not going to work for my business anymore. It's going to work for me. And that became just like, and like, again, like, that's like, how does that look for you? Only you know. Yeah. But for me, it was like realizing that, like, I want to come in and like unlock my door and put my apron on, and I want to like enjoy the day. And I think there were clients I needed to stop doing. There were people I had to let go of, because I can see how, when I started questioning my patterns, I started to be attracted to different types of people. So I talk a lot about like the kinds of people I'm drawn to now from a client perspective, from a friendship perspective, are people that are just like energetically clear. Like, I'm spending time with them, I'm with them, and I don't feel like this energetic, just like, like they're taking you down. And I think that as I got healthier, and like my business got healthier, right? Like, so like, while I started to like take better care of myself and say, like, I'm booked that week, and not being like, where can I find a spot for this person? I feel like your life comes and meets you wherever you like, you're going to get the life you think you deserve. Mm-hmm. So I think that I started to just realize, like, oh my God, I can enjoy all these people, and I can have I have fewer appointments a day, and I can say bye to the people that I think are really rude to me, and that I can do that, and that I can, like, that it's allowed. And then
Yeah.
I think being able to say, like, if you want to start your own business, you make it however you want. But I think that we got it all wrong when we went into like salon ownership or studio ownership. Like, I think that I had this mentality of like, be like the big salon, like be available like the big salon, do, like you're doing this for your clients. But really, if I'm really honest, it's not really why I was doing it, but I never had it set up in a way to have it honor who I was and the life I wanted. And so for me, it's like having a lot more personal time and time to myself to like kind of just connect with myself, because I just kept myself going in such a pace that I think I'm just having more fun too.
Thank you, Lindsay, so much for chatting with me today. I've personally learned so much, and I know that everyone watching has definitely dealt with a lot of the situations that you're talking about in terms of money mindset, in terms of dealing with self-worth, setting boundaries. It's all so, so, so important to having and running your own business. If anyone wants to learn more about you or your podcast or what you do, your program, how can they find you, Lindsay?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, and I also have everything on my website. So it's linmaystudio.com or linmaystudio on Instagram, or She Makes Waves on Instagram also.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for being here with us, Lindsay. I appreciated it.
Thank you.
Okay.